Well, I think it was not fully thought out. I think the consequences we're going to discover are quite severe. Um, there's no question that Soleimani was a brutal terrorist who had attacked and killed thousands, including Americans, but the consequences are going to be very significant. It appears that Iran is now unified more than it was before, and they're committed to uh, counterattacking, if you will. And also we have grave political difficulties in Iraq. They voted to expel U.S. forces. If they carry that out, that'll be a significant strategic setback to the United States in the region. So we're in a very difficult position now. I think the serious threats are facing us.
When you say serious threats and severe consequences, is the U.S. going to end up going to war?
Well, I think what you're finding is we're already in a conflict with the Iranians. It's been a low level. Uh, there's been some terrorist activities. There's been attacks by the Iranians, not against the United States directly, but through proxies in Iraq. That'll accelerate. The question, I think, is now the administration has to take steps to get off this escalatory ladder that they've got on. That means some type of form of communication with the Iranian government, and so far I don't see that. I think they're talking past each other. And it means that the United States has to take an attitude of more calculated than the president's tweets, which seem to be completely impulsive rather than calculated. So we really have a leadership issue here in terms of providing a strong sort of sense of deterrence against the Iranians, but without escalating to the point where essentially both sides lose control and it becomes an all-out battle.
What is the mood like in Washington right now regarding this airstrike?
Well, I think there's trepidation on both sides of the aisle. Congress has never been consulted on this. And I think the feeling is that this is something that could get out of hand very quickly. Speaking to senior military personnel, they are very, very wary of a process of tit-for-tat retaliation that leads to significant violence in the region. They fully expect that the Iranians will attack targets, probably through surrogates, generally in Iraq, because it's an opportunity there they have that they don't have in other places, but it may be around the globe. In addition, we're seeing other radical elements. Al-Shabaab just attacked a Kenyan airfield, killing a U.S. service member. That's probably not directly coordinated, but in this environment where we're distracted with respect to the Iranians, then you're going to see terrorist groups in Africa, terrorist groups not affiliated with the Iranians, but just taking advantage of an opportunity they see. So we're in, I think, for a very, very dangerous period of time.
What does this mean for our troops, U.S. troops?
It means our troops have to be very much on guard, literally. We've announced, which again is another, I think, policy failure, we've announced we've abandoned our efforts against ISIS in Iraq and Syria simply for force protection. We have to protect our forces. I think the other issue that's very significant politically is the vote by the Iraqi parliament to essentially ask the United States forces to leave. If we leave militarily from Iraq, that'll be an open invitation for ISIS to return. It'll also enhance further Iranian influence in the country. And we find ourselves, I think, because of the decision that was made, worse off this week than we were before. The Iraqis have formally asked us to leave their country, giving a pass, if you will, to the Iranians and ISIS. The Iranians, after they complete the funeral services for Soleimani, are prepared to start action. We have other terrorist groups associated with al-Qaeda that seem to be taking advantage of our dilemma by attacking. That doesn't make us safer, contrary to what Secretary of State Pompeo says. In fact, we're more unsafe at this moment.
Unsafe, do you think there's a threat to Homeland Security here in the States?
I think there's a possibility that we always have to consider. Department of Homeland Security issued a report that they have not seen any significant indicators yet. There is a strong possibility of cyber warfare that the Iranians could launch against the United States or our allies, and there are other possibilities. One of the statements the Iranians made is, and again, it's hard to figure out what is official policy and what is just commentary, is that they will target military targets, not civilian targets, which would suggest that most of the activity will be in the region and not in the United States. But we can't let our guard down.